a place that once harbored some of the most evil people to ever stalk the streets of America. Isolated by the stormy seas, and designed to break the spirit of even the most hardened criminal. Today we will be taking a look at the infamous Alcatraz Prison, and we may just find that the people who were sent there could never truly leave. The area that was to become known as Alcatraz Island has a very rich history to draw from. It was originally used as a fishing outpost for Native Americans, a lookout post for the Mexican government, to a US military outpost, and much, much more. But in this video, we will be focusing on arguably its most famous aspect, its prison complex. In the late 1850s, the first inmates to occupy Alcatraz were military prisoners. Prisoners who were forced to build a new prison that would later become known as the Rock. The U.S. Army housed military prisoners on the island until 1933, at which point the federal government decided to open a maximum security and minimum privilege penitentiary to deal with their most incorrigible inmates. Alcatraz was designed to break the spirit of even the most rebellious prisoners by placing them in a structured, monotonous routine until their release. They were only given 4 basic things: food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. Anything beyond these basics had to be earned. Some of the most famous mobsters of the time, such as Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, Alvin Karpis, and Arthur Dog Barker, who were used to bribing guards to receive their normal comforts, could not apply those same tactics here. Guards were given special training and were paid well for the time, so any outside bribes wouldn't work on them, or so the story goes. One of these mobsters in particular, Al Capone, experienced very strange activity during his stay at the facility. Capone suffered from syphilis of the brain, and often claimed that the spirits of those he had murdered would come into his cell and torture him relentlessly. That was just the beginning of the strange activity at the complex. Besides being deprived of most earthly comforts, prisoners were subject to brutal punishments for breaking the rules. One of those such punishments took place in the strip cell. The strip cell was a dark steel cell where inmates would be stripped naked and only given water and bread once a day. They often had no bed, and the only toilet was a hole in the cell floor. There was also no sink. The prisoner would be isolated from other inmates for up to 19 days at a time, spending their time in pitch black solitude. There's no doubt that some of the worst criminals of the time were housed on Alcatraz. Some were more than likely tortured for their behavior, and many were put to death for their ghastly deeds. But did the torture end when their hearts stopped beating? Or did those who were confined to the prison continue to stay for all eternity? After the prison closed in 1963, it was later reopened to the public for history tours. People then began to experience strange and bizarre happenings. But the ghost stories of Alcatraz began well before the history tours. One of the areas of the prison that's been most active with paranormal activity is that of the utility corridor. In this corridor at one time, 3 inmates were peppered to death by bullets after their failed prison escape. It was after this grisly scene that strange things began to happen. In 1976, a night security guard reported unexplained clanging sounds coming from inside one of the cells. Upon further examination, it was found that the cell was completely empty, along with the rest of the block. Another instance shortly after was that of another guard, who reported an eerie green mist that could be seen floating throughout the block, only to dissipate shortly after its appearance. Another part of the prison synonymous with paranormal activity is that of Cell 14D. Cell 14D, one of the whole cells, is believed to be very active with spirits. This is believed to be linked to the tales of a prisoner in the 1940s who was locked in the hole and screamed throughout the whole night that a creature with glowing eyes was attacking him. The next day, the guards found the man strangled to death in his cell. This was even more bizarre, considering the hole had nothing in it, and the convicts were normally stripped of their clothing. No one ever claimed responsibility for the convict's death, and even stranger, the following weeks after the incident, the head counts were off, always counting one additional person who wasn't actually there, so perhaps the inmate never left. Cell blocks A, B, and C have also been linked with strange phenomena as well. Visitors and employees have claimed to hear horrible sobbing and sounds of torture coming from inside the cells. One visiting psychic also claimed that a spirit named the Butcher held others hostage there. And strangely enough, there is a record of a prisoner who lived out his final days in Block C, a mob hitman known as the Butcher, A.B. Maldowitz, who was killed by another inmate after an altercation. Many people have also claimed to see the ghost of Al Capone haunting the grounds. As mentioned previously, Capone himself experienced strange visions, but this could possibly be linked to his neurosyphilis symptoms. Prior to his release and subsequent demise from the disease, Capone had taken up banjo as one of his recreational privileges he had earned during his stay. Due to the fear of being murdered by other inmates, he was often allowed to practice in the shower room. People have often heard and even recorded EVPs of the sound of banjo music coming from inside the shower room's walls late at night. Other strange happenings such as unexplained sounds, feelings of cold, unexplained feelings of impending doom, sulfuric smells, and more have been reported. And given the prison's dark history, perhaps those who were sent there never did truly escape, even when death came for them. Perhaps they still call the walls of Alcatraz their home for all eternity. But what do you think? Is Alcatraz haunted? Let me know down in the comments below. Help me out by hitting the like button, subscribing with the bell, and sharing this video on social media. We often struggle to break into YouTube's algorithm, and doing these things will help us out tremendously. Thank you guys for all your support, and if you like stories that will creep you out, watch one of my other videos on screen now. And until next time, this has been Cody here at Mystery Archives. Thank you so much for watching, and have yourself a wonderful day.